Lava Girivaradari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamunatiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari. Jashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Jamunatiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari. Jashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Jamunatiravanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ramu, Hare Ramu, Rama. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajikacharya Ashtutara Shata Śrimad Abhaicharan Vinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajikacharya Ashtutara Shata Śrimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Premiko Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham, Mathura Dham, Navadvip Dham, Jagannath Puri Dham, Ganga Mai, Muna Mai, Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Sankirtan Yagi Ki Jai, Brihad Mridanga Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Jai Gaura Parimanande Hari Hari Babu. All glories to the Samo devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the Samo devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the Samo devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shishi Guru and Gauranga. Glories to A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Maharaj Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayed Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki Om Jnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Ummilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Shatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Garadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Manchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Today we are reading from Śrimad Bhāgavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 25th, Text 25th. This is a very important verse to learn. Should memorize it, and it's also one of the verses to be learned if one is doing the Bhakti Vaibhava course. So let's repeat it together. Satam prasangam mama virya samvido bhavanti hritkarna rasayana katam tajoshanad ash apavarga vartmani shraddha ratir bhaktir anukramishati. Satam prasangam mama virya samvido bhavanti hritkarna rasayana katam tajoshanad ash apavarga vartmani shraddha ratir bhaktir anukramishati. Satam prasangam mama virya samvido bhavanti hritkarna rasayana katam Tajoshanad as apavarga vartmani. Shadaratir bhaktir anukramishti. Satam prasanga mama virya samvidu. Avantirit karna rasayana katam. Vardmani. Shadaratir bhaktir anukramishti. Satam prasanga mama virya samvidu. Bhavanti Hridgarna Rasayana Kata Tajoshanagada Bhavarga Vartmani Shadaratir Bhaktir Anukramishati Satam Prasangan Mama Virya Samvidu Bhavanti Hridgarna Rasayana Kata Tajoshanagada Bhavarga Vartmani Tajoshanad as apavarga vartmani. Ladies, Satam prasanga mama virya samvidu Bhavanti Hridkarna Rasayana Katam Ajasana as apavarga vatmani Shadaratir Bhaktir Anukramishati Satam prasanga mama virya samvidu Bhavanti Hridkarna Rasayana Katam Sajasana Arabavarta Vartmani Shadaratir Bhaktir Anukramishati. Translation. Satam of pure devotees. Prasangat through the association. Nama, my. Virya, wonderful activities. Samvidaha, by discussion of. Bhavanti, become. Hrit, to the heart. Karna, to the ear. Rasa ayanaha, pleasing. Kata, the stories. Tat, of that. Joshanat, by cultivation. Ashu, quickly. Apavarga, of liberation. Vartmani, on the path. Shraddha, firm faith. Rati, attraction. Bhakti, devotion. Anukramishati, will follow in order. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada Ki Jai. In the association of pure devotees, discussion of the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and the heart. By cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation, and thereafter he is freed and his attraction becomes fixed. Then real devotion and devotional service begin. Purport. The process of advancing in Krishna consciousness and devotional service is described here. The first point is that one must seek the association of persons who are Krishna conscious and who engage in devotional service. Without such association, one cannot make advancement. Simply by theoretical knowledge or study, one cannot make any appreciable advancement. One must give up the association of materialistic persons and seek the association of devotees, because without the association of devotees, one cannot understand the activities of the Lord. Generally, people are convinced of the impersonal feature of the Absolute Truth. Because they do not associate with devotees, they cannot understand that the Absolute Truth can be a person and have personal activities. This is a very difficult subject matter. And unless one has personal understanding of the Absolute Truth, there is no meaning to devotion. Service or devotion cannot be offered to anything impersonal. Service must be offered to a person. Non-devotees cannot appreciate Krishna consciousness by reading the Śrimad Bhāgavatam or any other Vedic literature wherein the activities of the Lord are described. They think that these activities are fictional, manufactured stories, because spiritual life is not explained to them in the proper mood. To understand the personal activities of the Lord, one has to seek the association of devotees. And by such association, when one contemplates and tries to understand the transcendental activities of the Lord, the path to liberation is open and he is freed. One who has firm faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes fixed, and his attraction for association with the Lord and the devotees increases. Association with devotees means association with the Lord. The devotees who make this association develops the consciousness for rendering service to the Lord, and then, being situated in the transcendental position of devotional service, he gradually becomes perfect. Translation once more. In the association of pure devotees, discussion of the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and the heart. By cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation, and thereafter he is freed and his attraction becomes fixed. Then real devotion and devotional service begin. I'm seeking the blessings of Chandrasekhar Maharaj and all the senior devotees. 25. Yeah. So that I can say something truthful and substantial for our own purification and for the pleasure of Bhagavan. So Bhakti Yoga begins with faith. As we all know, Shraddha is there when somebody is interested in understanding the spiritual topics of the Vedic scriptures. And one develops Shraddha, we know, from unknowing devotional activities, from previous lives, accumulation of many activities, or simply by the mercy of the pure devotee. Just like when Srila Prabhupada came to America and he simply went out, and by his causeless mercy, many heard the transcendental vibration from his pure heart, and they were captivated by his transcendental attraction. Some of them, they saw him just one time. They saw the halo of Srila Prabhupada. They saw the effulgence. And they couldn't join right away they joined after years maybe, but just because they saw him one time, or just because they heard him one time, they developed some faith. Little by little, Prabhupada himself said, I created your punya, I created your sukriti. So in this way, when one develops shraddha or faith, then the natural next step is that he becomes more interested, so he naturally inquires. From who is he inquiring? Of course, from the devotees, because the devotees are those who know. And they cannot inquire directly from Krishna. They could, but it is explained in the scriptures that one cannot understand Krishna within the heart properly because at the early stages, because the heart is very contaminated. So one cannot discriminate properly between the guidance of the Chaitya Guru and his mental concoctions. So one can get easily deceived in this way by his mental speculations. But the devotees are the real gateway. Keshava Maharaj was saying in one of his lectures that when he was 15, he got the Bhagavad Gita and he read it continuously for 2 years. And then one day he decided to go to a Gita class. And in 1 hour of class, he understood more than in 2 years of reading the Bhagavad Gita. So, Bhakti Yoga is a very, very subtle, very deep science. It's not just a book knowledge. It's not that you just put yourself down with the books and you study and that's it. It is explained also that if one wants to become a surgeon, he can't just take books and study and then operate. No, one has to go to school, one has to learn from those who have experience, because there are so many subtleties, so many variables, so many principles overlapping itself. So it's difficult. Every time, place, and circumstance is demanding deeper understanding. So in the same matter with bhakti, one has to hear from the devotees, one has to associate in order to understand these principles. Asatsanga Tyaga a Vaishnavachar. Another characteristic of the Vaishnavas, Mahaprabhu, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, is that the Vaishnava abandons the association of worldly minded people, Asatsanga, which is the Sangha of the Asat, those who are interested in temporary pleasures. What was that verse? Tadvaya Samtirta. No, what was that? A place of pilgrimage for crows. Those who are interested in the crow-like conversations of the mundane world, mundane poetry, football, cinema songs, Prabhupada used to call them, cinema songs and movies. And all that which is connected with the good old eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. People who are interested in this, people who are addicted to sex life, association with them is to be abandoned if one is serious into advancing on the spiritual path. Why? Because by associating with such people, one becomes naturally inclined to enjoy the world. This is how it works. When our heart connects with the heart of materialistic people, naturally we absorb this jada rasa, this jada bhava, this passion for enjoyment, passion for enjoying the crow-like pleasures. So we have to be really careful in our devotional path with whom we associate with. When we go to meet our parents, of course they're our parents, that's inevitable. When we meet our old friends sometimes on the street, they will come by. They'll be like, well, what are you doing, man? What is these funny clothes? Come back. Let's have a drink in the club, in the bar, like the good old times, you remember? In the neighborhood. Yeah, so we have to forget about these things, It's like a dream. Because the past is like a dream, all the things that we made in the past, our previous life, it's no longer there. Just like when we wake up and we dreamed of something bad or good, has no factual existence because it's illusory. It's no longer there. So we shouldn't be taking seriously all these things that we have in our mind. We shouldn't be taking seriously all this longing that comes from time to time to associate with worldly people. And we have to embrace the association of the saintly devotees. And we have to learn the art of associating with them. It's an art that takes some contemplation, it takes some sacrifice to understand. Srila Rupa Goswami says in the Bhakti Rasamrita, in the Upadeshamrita, Tadati pratigrinati guyama khyati prichati bhunkte bhujayate chaiva. No, how is it? Tadati pratigrinati guyama khyati prichati how is it? Bhunkte bhujayate chaiva tadvidi pratilakshanam. The exchanges between devotees, offerings, gifts in charity, accepting charitable gifts, revealing one's mind in confidence, or inquiring confidentially, accepting prasadam and offering prasadam in exchange, or just offering prasadam. These are the 6 symptoms of love shared by one devotee and another. So this is a very important verse that we don't have to just learn, but we have to try to understand deeply. We have to try to implement it in our daily lives. Because as it was explained, it's not just a book knowledge. Bhakti Yoga is actually a spiritual culture. So this book knowledge, this Gyan, is meant to fructify. And this fructification results in the most exalted culture in existence, the Vaishnava culture. So we know that this is perfect knowledge which is coming from the spiritual world, Apaurusheya, the knowledge that has no human origin. And it's given by Krishna himself, because he is the creator of all that is. So we just have to simply follow it. Offering gifts in charity, accepting gifts. Very important. It's not just the gift itself, but it's an exchange of love. And not just giving. Many times, we have to be open to accept a gift. I have seen many times that, you're offering something to somebody, a sweet, and he's like, oh no, Prabhu, no, it's sugar, no. It's bad for you. Oh, it has soy in it? Soy? You crazy? It's gonna stay 30 years in my body. No. No, it's not. It's not like that. We're missing the point. A devotee is coming and he's offering his love to us, so we have to accept it. Of course, if he's offering you something weird, which is not accepted even by Krishna, that's another situation. But if somebody is giving you a sweet, something, we shouldn't be closing our hearts to this. We have to understand that this is very important. So it's not just giving, but also opening ourselves and receiving the mercy. We have to understand the mercy of Krishna. We have to understand the mercy of Mahaprabhu. It's a practical mercy. It's not a love by declaration. Prabhupada explained that devotional service, that love of God means activity, devotional service. And this is an activity, it's an exchange. It's coming your way. Or you're giving it to others. You're offering service. This is how we understand the personality of Godhead. Revealing one's mind or inquiring confidentially. Very important, Relationships in Bhakti Yoga. These are the things that will nourish us, actually. Not just studying the books and just chanting fanatically in the morning. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Prabhu, Haribo, can you help me? Don't you see I'm chanting? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama. We're chanting, but we're chanting for what? Then what? For the rest of the day? Shantarasa? Om. That's it. No, we are chanting because then we have to serve. Who do we serve? The chair? The clouds? No, we have to serve the devotees. Otherwise, we cannot understand Krishna. This is the fundamental message of this verse. That's why it's so important. Because to understand Brahman, to understand the impersonal feature is actually a mediocre realization. If you go on the street, if you stop people, many will tell you, yes, I believe, there is the energy, the intelligence behind everything. It's not casual, people are not everybody is stupid, people understand these things. But still, it's a low class realization, if we can say like that. Because even though one realizes this, and then what? One continues with his sinful life. Yeah, okay, there is the Supreme Source is there. He gave me life. He gave me, or she or he, whatever it is. The cloud gave me possibility to enjoy this world, so I'm very grateful. And then I'll continue with my sinful activities. There is no sense of responsibility. There is no understanding of authority. That the personality of Godhead implies that one has to accept the authority of the person Krishna that comes from the authority of the devotees, and one has to surrender to this authority. Things that are favorable and things that are unfavorable. How can we understand these things? Association with devotees means also that we get enlightened in something that we didn't understand before. Receiving new inputs, new understanding of a deeper principle. And not just that, but we have to act upon it. This is a real association between devotees. This is explained by the acharyas. If we don't have this in our life, then there is no real association. So we must learn the proper way of inquiring, discussions of the philosophy, discussion of the pastimes of Krishna, discussions of the holy Dham, the spiritual activities. Otherwise, what are we going to discuss? Prabhuji, Prasadam in Vrindavan is top notch. What did you do this morning, you know? What did you do in your previous life? So many topics, so many questions. We are used to it, you know, it's a habit. It's a very deep habit. But we have to understand the superior way of associating with Vaishnavas. Because this is how we will approach Krishna. Don't believe those who say, I saw God, I spoke to God. This is not how it works. We cannot approach God directly unless there is some very rare exception where Krishna appears. But he doesn't appear randomly. Usually because it's some background, devotional service. So we have to understand that Krishna is manifesting his potency through the devotees, through a spiritual master. And we have to learn how to associate in this way. By observing the devotees in the Bhāgavatam, by observing all these subtle interactions, by observing the pastimes of Sri Mahaprabhu, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because without the mercy of the nectarian association with Panchatattva and the Goswamis, we cannot understand the deeper pastimes of Sri Radha and Krishna, Shri Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. That is the speciality of this Sankirtan movement. Only then we can understand it. Because in other Kali Yugas, Mahaprabhu is not there. And there is not the highest Madhurya Rasa is not there. It's not present. There is some type of Vaikuntha Prema. But what is being given to us is of an inestimable value now. And Prabhupada built ISKCON exactly for this purpose, for spiritual community. There is no meaning to spiritual life without spiritual community. We have to really understand this. And we have to understand that most of our problems are coming from this, because we don't know how to relate to each other, and we don't know how to live in a community. So we have to really understand this. It's so important to associate with Vaishnavas and to be connected, to do things together. One time, in an Amish community, something happened, a fire broke in a house and the whole roof was burned. What happened next day is that the whole community came and they built up the roof in 24 hours. That's amazing, huh? So this is something that we're looking forward to, Varnashrama Dharma, where you're living a simple life and in the middle of the village there is the temple and nothing else. No billboards, no bars, no shops. Everybody comes together to worship Krishna, to cultivate the fields, fresh food, fresh water. But, fantasies. We are far away from this. But Gita Nagar is there, and they're giving example. They're doing something substantial there. Anyway, I don't want to extend it any longer. If there are some questions, comments, Maharaj, if you want to say something, please.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, look at that. The thing has got a hole in it.
Somebody was hungry, huh?
A sock where somebody's toe is coming through the end of the sock. No point in it.
It's either somebody was fired up singing, like very fired
somebody
up singing,
sang such loud Haribols that it burned the top of the
or
microphone.
somebody was fasting the other day on Jamashtami too much.
Wind blocker on there. So, yes, the theme of today's verse is, of course, the importance of being with devotees. That's kind of the theme for this whole section. But particularly hearing from devotees and discussing the pastimes of the Supreme. Because we are, the whole process of Krishna consciousness is really nothing more than trying to reconnect everything to Krishna. So if you're trying to reconnect everything to Krishna in the association of other people who are also trying to reconnect everything to Krishna, then half the work has already been being done by others. You don't have so much to do. However, if you're living in an association of people who are not Krishna conscious, then they're always, every reaction they have, every comment they have, every thing that they're offering, they're pulling you away from Krishna because they themselves are not connected to Krishna, so they're pulling you away. And basically that's the whole thing. Since devotees are very dear to Krishna, then being with them, appreciating them, trying to understand them, trying to serve them, hearing from them, all these things are the opportunities and the likelihood and also the ease with which one can stay focused on Krishna is much better.
And devotees will make us humble also.
Yes, that's even if they're not trying, they'll make us humble. Some try though.
Yeah. Somebody was mentioning, why, we are all together, devotees, why so many, problems and hypocrisy, whatnot, and this devotee did this, the other devotee did that, and why, And then Maharaj was commenting, well, then how are you going to get purified, That's why Krishna put us all together, have to get purified somehow. So all these things are happening for our own purification. The trick is to always be humble. Narada Muni Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Such a nice verse. I was looking through in the Adi Lila in the first chapter, the same verses spoken, and I thought it'd be maybe nice if I could just read this commentary that Srila Prabhupada gives, which is very aligned with what you were saying today.
Please read.
This verse appears in Śrimad Bhāgavatam 3:25-25, where Kapila Dev replies to the questions of his mother, Devahuti, about the process of devotional service. As one advances in devotional activities, the process becomes progressively clearer and more encouraging. Unless one gets the spiritual encouragement by following the instructions of the spiritual master, it is not possible to make advancement. Therefore, one's development of a taste for executing these instructions is the test of one's devotional service. Initially, one must develop confidence by hearing the signs of devotion from a qualified spiritual master. Then, as he associates with devotees and tries to adopt the means instructed by the spiritual master in his own life, his misgivings and other obstacles are vanquished by his execution of devotional service. Strong attachment for the transcendental service of the Lord develops as he continues listening to the messages of Godhead. And if he steadfastly proceeds in this way, he is certainly elevated to spontaneous love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thought that was nice.
Krishna Prabhu, you want to add something?
Sometimes although our program is to always associate with devotees, sometimes we're put in situations where we're associated with non-devotees. Like sometimes we have to go home to our family and things like that. And then we realize how much easier it was to perform devotional service when we're in the association of devotees. And even just remembering to chant my Gayatris, I do a lot better when I'm in the association of devotees, because they say, oh, it's time for Gayatri. And, oh, that's right, it's time for Gayatri. So they're always reminding us just by their lifestyle to do devotional things. Whereas when you're out of their association, you have to remind yourself. And the other people around you aren't going to remind you, as Maharaj was saying. They're going to drag your consciousness in a different direction. So in that sense, it's not nice when we're forced to be away from the devotees. We realize how valuable their association is, and we'll take it more seriously when we come back.
Yeah. It is explained that even just by seeing the faces of materialists, one gets contaminated.
Prabhupada actually talked about that one time. That just made me think of it was like a cover of Life magazine, and I can't exactly remember who he was speaking to, but he said something similar along the lines of, just by looking at this person's face, like one becomes contaminated in his devotional progresses. Yeah, but actually, I have a question in terms of the associating with someone who's not a devotee. You know, like we go out and we preach all the time, and we go and we go to see our family, or you see an old friend and you speak to them, and part of the duty of a Vaishnava is also to be merciful to those who are not non-devotees. And I think sometimes we kind of get this really fanatical. On one hand, we should be very careful to not associate with non-devotees, but how relative is that to the faction of us wanting to give mercy to those who aren't devotees? Because that's part of our duty, especially as Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So maybe if you want to elaborate on that.
Classical question.
Yeah.
I was expecting it. Yes, so in that case, you see, association is something very intimate. But in that case, we could say we're not taking association, we are giving association. Because association is an exchange. It's an exchange, question and answers, or conversation. But in the case with, at least this is my understanding, in the case with our family, or when we're out, when we have to interact with people, to give them bhakti, to give them a book, to trick them into it. We're interacting with people to a certain level, but we're not giving our heart to them, So that there is a certain level where you interact with the person. You don't have to agree with what he is saying, because you're trying to give to him. You're not taking from him. You're not agreeing with his ideas of enjoying the world. So it's a different type of interacting. I don't know if that's answering. Okay, think we're done. Grantaraj Śrimad Bhāgavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.